Welcome to the State of the Union from Brussels. The French president is known for his efforts to promote a more autonomous and relevant European Union in the world. These efforts are sometimes taken in sudden and unusual ways, as was the case at a sort of informal leaders' summit in Paris this week. Emmanuel Macron wanted to discuss the European response to Russian aggression in Ukraine as the conflict entered its third year. But his comments about possibly sending European soldiers to help Ukrainian armed forces raised some eyebrows.
Il n'y a pas de consensus aujourd'hui pour envoyer de manière officielle, assumée et endossée des troupes au sol, mais en dynamique, rien ne doit être exclu.
The Kremlin's reaction was immediate, warning that such a scenario would lead to a conflict with Russia. So many voices were quick to rule it out, from the leaders of several member states, including Germany, to the Secretary General of NATO. The French president's proactivity may be more appreciated by the widow of Alexei Navalny, the Russian opponent who died in prison. Yulia Navalny spoke at the European Parliament in Strasbourg this week and called for innovative methods to stop the Russian president.
You cannot hurt Putin with another resolution or another set of sanctions. That is no different from the previous ones. You cannot defeat him by thinking he is a man of principle who has morals and rules.
The scenes of a near battle have once again taken place in Brussels with farmers as the protagonists. In the space of a few weeks, around 1,000 tractors have returned to the so-called European quota. The protesters used heavy artillery such as manure, burnt tires and other ammunition to draw the attention of the EU ministers responsible for agriculture that were in town. The farmers complained about low prices for their produce, too much bureaucracy and inefficient use of European subsidies. Despite several concessions from the European Commission, they are not convinced and promise to keep the fight. To discuss about possible solutions to their demands, I spoke earlier this week with João Pacheco, senior fellow at the think tank Farm Europe, who has previous experience in managing the EU common agriculture policies. João Pacheco, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. European farmers are calling for measures to help them obtain a fair remuneration for their work in the food chain. What measures would be feasible in the short and medium term?
Well, I think they are right because their income has gone down. It's absolutely incredible, but if you look at what happened in the last 20 years, incomes per hectare have gone down by two-digit figures in most member states. So I think what is important is to do two things. First is to increase demand for their products in Europe. And they have to have more demand, mainly from the bioeconomy sector. And the second thing is that there are a number of practices in the marketing chain that abuse the fact that farmers are individuals. There are millions of farmers, but there are per country 3, 4, maximum 5 big supermarket chains that have an extraordinary market power.
Common agriculture policy funds take up a lot from the European Union budget. Do you think that those subsidies have been mainly benefiting the big agro-business, or there could be some reform to adjust those funds?
The problem is that the real value of the subsidies of the common agricultural policy has gone down by 30% because of inflation. It hasn't been adjusted for inflation. So in real terms, farmers are having less subsidies the moment Europe is asking them to do more in terms of protection of the environment, more in terms of standards, and so on and so forth. The problem in Europe is that you have huge numbers of small and very small farms, which unfortunately are not profitable and will never be profitable.
Well, an industrialized model of food production has impacts in the environment, in the climate, in human health. The European Union created this strategy from farm to fork, but it's always very contested. Why is that?
One was the SUR proposal, the pesticides, that was now withdrawn by the Commission. 50% reduction of pesticide use, irrespective of the fact that there were or not alternatives. Other proposals on the farm to fork, that you would reduce the use of chemical fertilizers by 20%. The top universities, the US Department of Agriculture, have come to the conclusion that it would reduce production in Europe by 15 to 20%. The solution should be, in my view, to produce more in Europe, but in a more sustainable way. And the answer is better technology. You can reduce the use of pesticides, fertilizers, etc., per unit of production.
João Pacheco, thank you very much for your contribution.
Most welcome.
Let's talk again about Ukraine, but looking into one of the millions of citizens who are trying to maintain some sense of normality. Ukrainian designer Lilia Likovska, who lives in Kiev, went to Paris to present her collection for Autumn-Winter 2024-2025 entitled Underwater during the Fashion Week. The designer comes from 4 generations of tailors, and oversized tailoring is one of her signatures. She still has a team of 35 people working with her in Ukraine and said she has no plans to stop. It is very difficult, but we keep creating because creation is love, she said. And with this, we close our edition. Thank you for watching.